James had always liked the quiet mornings before the city fully woke up. The streets were less crowded, and the air carried a calmness that he never felt during the rest of the day. He liked to stop by the small coffee shop on the corner near his office. It wasn't fancy, but it had a charm that made it feel warm and inviting. The smell of freshly brewed coffee and baked pastries filled the air, making it a comforting start to his busy day. He had been coming here for years, and the staff knew him well, often greeting him with a smile and a friendly chat. That morning the line was longer than usual. People were bustling in, talking in low voices and trying to get their coffee before heading to work. James stood near the back of the line, holding his worn leather briefcase and scrolling through his phone. His outfit was simple, jeans, a plain shirt, and a jacket, but he carried himself with a quiet confidence. He didn't mind the wait. He enjoyed watching people, noticing the little details that often went unseen. Ahead of him was a woman who immediately drew his attention. She was calm, graceful, and seemed completely in control of her surroundings. Her suit was perfectly tailored, and she carried herself with an elegance that made her stand out without trying. There was something intriguing about her, not just her appearance, but the way she moved and observed everything around her. She ordered a cappuccino, speaking politely to the barista, and then reached for her wallet. James noticed her frown when her card was declined. She looked slightly embarrassed, flipping through her wallet as if she couldn't understand what went wrong. A few people behind her shifted impatiently, but she didn't seem flustered, just momentarily caught off guard. James felt a small urge to help. It wasn't something he thought about deeply. It was just a natural reaction. He stepped forward and offered to pay for her coffee. The woman looked at him surprised. "Are you sure?" she asked softly. James smiled. "Of course. Don't worry about it." She accepted, thanking him warmly. There was a genuine gratitude in her eyes, and James felt a small satisfaction in helping someone without expecting anything in return. He watched as she walked to a nearby table, sipping her coffee and looking around thoughtfully. He returned to the back of the line, ordered his usual, and took a seat by the window. He didn't think much of it after that. Life had its routines, and this was just one small moment in his ordinary day. But for the woman, that small act of kindness was different. Her name was Lily, and she was no ordinary customer. She was the CEO of a tech company that had grown rapidly over the past few years. She was a self-made millionaire, used to people treating her differently once they knew who she was. Most encounters in her life were transactional or superficial, filled with politeness but lacking real human connection. She was used to people either ignoring her or being overly formal, unsure how to interact with someone of her status. Yet, here was a young man who had treated her just like any other person. He hadn't flinched at the sight of her wealth or assumed anything about her life. He had simply seen someone in need and offered help. Lily felt a spark of genuine warmth, something she rarely experienced in her busy, high-powered life. She finished her coffee slowly, savoring not just the drink but the feeling of being treated as a person rather than a title or a paycheck. James, on the other hand, returned to his routine. He went back to his small office, typed away on his computer, answered emails, and made phone calls. His life was ordinary, but he found meaning in the little things, helping a colleague, finishing a task well, or sharing a kind word. He didn't think about the woman he had helped again, not because it wasn't significant, but because in his world, small acts of kindness were just part of everyday life. The day moved on. Outside, the city grew louder and busier. Cars honked. Pedestrians hurried along the sidewalks, and the coffee shop became a blur of movement and sound. But in that small moment, James had unknowingly made a lasting impression on Lily. She walked out of the shop, feeling a sense of lightness she hadn't felt in weeks. It wasn't just the coffee or the gesture itself. It was the reminder that human kindness existed in unexpected places. Lily went about her day, attending meetings, making decisions that affected hundreds of employees, and managing her busy schedule. Yet the memory of that small act lingered in her mind. It was rare for her to encounter someone who treated her without pretense or hesitation. She found herself replaying the scene in her mind, wondering about the man who had shown her such simple, genuine kindness. Meanwhile, James finished his workday like any other, He walked home, grabbed a quick dinner, and settled in for the evening. Life felt ordinary, and he liked it that way. He didn't expect recognition, rewards, or anything extraordinary. To him, being a good person was its own reward. He didn't know that the small act of paying for a coffee had set in motion a series of events that would change both of their lives in ways he couldn't imagine. That night, as Lily lay in bed, she reflected on the encounter. She had seen so many people in her life, but few left an impression quite like James. There was a sincerity in him that was rare, a natural goodness that couldn't be faked. She realized that she wanted to know more about him, not in a romantic sense immediately, but as someone she could connect with genuinely. The next morning, she returned to the coffee shop, hoping to see him again. She scanned the room, looking for the young man who had paid attention to her as a person, not a CEO. But he wasn't there yet. She didn't mind. It wasn't about catching him again in that moment. It was about the impact he had made on her. A reminder that small acts of kindness could leave lasting impressions. James, unaware of her thoughts, continued his daily routine. He noticed nothing unusual about the day. Just another morning, another coffee, another commute. But the world often works in mysterious ways. Little did he know that their paths would cross again, this time under circumstances that neither of them could have expected. For Lily, that coffee shop moment became a story she would retell to herself often. A simple encounter that reminded her that despite her success and wealth, human connection remained the most valuable thing in life. And for James, it remained a quiet, unremarkable moment in a busy morning, a small act done without expectation yet powerful in ways he could not yet see. The city moved on, people hurried to their destinations, and life continued. But in the midst of ordinary routines, two lives had intersected in a meaningful way, leaving an invisible thread that would soon pull them closer together. Neither of them knew what the future held, but that simple act of paying for a coffee had planted a seed, one that would grow into something far more significant than either of them could have imagined. And so, the day ended quietly, with James unaware of the ripples he had created, and Lily quietly smiling, thinking about the kindness she had encountered. It was the beginning of a story neither of them could predict. A story rooted in human connection, empathy, and the quiet power of small gestures that could change lives in ways that were both subtle and profound. Lily walked out of the coffee shop feeling a sense of calm she hadn't felt in weeks. Her life was usually a whirlwind of meetings, calls, and urgent emails. She often found herself moving from one task to another, rarely stopping to notice the world around her. But that morning, a small act of kindness had reminded her of something she had almost forgotten: the simple beauty of human connection. As she walked down the bustling city street, she thought about the man who had helped her. James. That was the name she had overheard the cashier use when he had paid for her coffee. She tried to picture him in her mind, recalling the friendly smile, the easy way he had approached her, and the sincerity in his eyes. It was rare for someone to be so genuinely kind without expecting anything in return, and she felt herself drawn to that thought. It lingered in her mind as she went about her day. At her office, things were busy as usual. Lily was a self-made CEO, leading a rapidly growing tech company. She had started from humble beginnings, working tirelessly to build her business from the ground up. Her days were filled with decisions that affected employees, investors, and clients, and the weight of responsibility often pressed heavily on her shoulders. Yet, she carried herself with poise and confidence, always aware that her actions set the tone for the company. Despite her success, Lily often felt a sense of isolation. People treated her differently once they knew who she was. Friendships were hard to come by, and many interactions felt superficial. People were drawn to her wealth and influence rather than who she really was. She had learned to guard herself, to be cautious about letting anyone too close. But James's gesture had cut through that barrier. It was simple, honest, and human. For the first time in a long while, she felt seen without pretense. Meanwhile, James continued his day in his modest office, unaware of the impact he had made. He typed away at his computer, completed his tasks, and interacted with colleagues in his usual friendly and humble manner. Life was ordinary, yet he found contentment in his work and small acts of kindness. To him, helping someone wasn't about recognition. It was about doing the right thing. He never imagined that paying for a coffee could leave such a lasting impression on someone else's life. That afternoon, Lily couldn't shake the thought of James. She found herself thinking about him repeatedly, wondering what his life was like, what dreams he had, and how someone could be so effortlessly kind. She realized she wanted to know him better, not as a curiosity, not as a challenge, but as someone she could connect with genuinely. She wanted to understand the person behind the simple act of generosity. Lily decided to ask around discreetly. She didn't want to make a scene or draw attention to herself. She simply wanted to know more about the young man who had unknowingly touched her life. Through a series of quiet inquiries, she discovered that James worked in a nearby building. He lived a modest life, worked hard, and didn't flaunt his achievements. He seemed like an ordinary person in an extraordinary world, someone who found joy and meaning in simple things. Intrigued, Lily thought about ways to meet him again. She could have had her assistant arrange a formal meeting, but that wasn't what she wanted. She didn't want James to feel intimidated or overwhelmed by her status. She wanted to approach him as a fellow human being, someone with whom she could have a genuine conversation. After some thought, she decided to invite him to a small professional event she was hosting. It was casual, a gathering of young professionals for networking and discussion. She hoped it would provide a comfortable environment where she could connect with him naturally. James received the invitation the following week. At first, he was hesitant. He wasn't used to attending events filled with high-level professionals. Networking was something he had avoided, preferring to focus on his work and simple joys. But something about the invitation piqued his curiosity. He recognized the name of the host, though he didn't fully understand who she was. After some consideration, he decided to attend. Perhaps it would be a learning experience, a chance to meet new people, and maybe even discover a perspective different from his own. The day of the event arrived, and James found himself stepping into a room that was far more elegant than anything he was accustomed to. People moved about confidently, discussing business, technology, and investment opportunities. The atmosphere was charged with energy, and James felt a mix of excitement and nervousness. He scanned the room, trying to orient himself when he saw her, Lily. She was talking with a small group of people but noticed him almost immediately. Her eyes lit up with recognition, and she excused herself from the group, walking toward him with a warm smile. James was taken aback.
He didn't initially recognize her from the coffee shop.
She looked more formal now, more polished, but there was something familiar in the way she approached him. She greeted him as if they had known each other for years, with a kindness that immediately put him at ease. They shook hands and she asked how he was doing. James, still slightly overwhelmed, responded honestly. He spoke about his work, his daily life, and a few of his dreams. Lily listened attentively, genuinely interested. It was a stark contrast to the superficial conversations he had encountered at similar events. Over the course of the evening, they found themselves in quiet corners of the room, talking more personally. Lily asked about his aspirations, his challenges, and what he valued in life. James shared openly, something he rarely did with strangers. He talked about his work ethic, the small joys he found in everyday life, and his belief in helping others whenever he could. Lily was struck by his sincerity. It was refreshing to meet someone who spoke honestly, without the pretense or hidden agendas that often accompanied interactions in her world. As the evening progressed, Lily realized that her curiosity about James had turned into genuine admiration. He wasn't interested in her wealth, her position, or the trappings of her success. He was interested in her as a person, and that was something she valued deeply. For James, the encounter was eye-opening. He had expected an intimidating environment filled with people who might look down on him, but instead, he found himself engaged in meaningful conversation with someone who was kind, intelligent, and approachable. After the event, Lily decided to take a small step further. She invited James for a coffee, not in a formal setting, but somewhere casual where they could continue their conversation. He agreed, curious to know more about the person who had hosted such an event and intrigued by her genuine interest in him. As they walked to a nearby cafe, the city buzzing around them, there was an unspoken understanding between them. Neither of them was rushing. Neither of them was performing for the other. They were simply two people, sharing a moment of real connection. At the cafe, they continued talking. Lily shared stories of her journey, the challenges she had faced, and the lessons she had learned along the way. James listened, asking thoughtful questions and sharing his own experiences in return. They laughed, reflected, and discovered common ground despite the differences in their lives. Lily felt a sense of ease she rarely experienced, and James felt a quiet inspiration, realizing that success could take many forms and that genuine kindness was a treasure. The afternoon passed quickly. When they finally parted ways, both felt a subtle shift. For Lily, it was a reminder that despite her busy, high-pressure life, meaningful connections were still possible. For James, it was an affirmation that simple, honest actions could lead to unexpected opportunities and relationships. Neither of them knew where this newfound connection would lead, but they felt the significance of the encounter deeply. In the days that followed, Lily found herself thinking about James more often. She appreciated his perspective on life, his humility, and the warmth he radiated. She realized that it wasn't about wealth, status, or influence. It was about character and authenticity. James, meanwhile, returned to his routine, but with a subtle shift in his outlook. He felt more confident, inspired, and curious about the possibilities that life could bring. They continued to meet occasionally, finding moments to share thoughts, experiences, and laughter. Each meeting strengthened the bond between them, revealing that genuine connections could transcend differences in background, lifestyle, and social status. Lily appreciated the simplicity James brought into her life, and James valued the insight, wisdom, and kindness Lily shared. What began as a simple act of paying for a coffee had grown into something much deeper. It was a reminder that life often works in unexpected ways, that small gestures of kindness can leave lasting impressions, and that true connection is built on sincerity, empathy, and mutual respect. Both of them were learning from each other, discovering the richness of human interaction beyond societal expectations and the superficial measures of success. And so, their story continued quietly, subtly, and profoundly. They navigated their differences, embraced their shared values, and found in each other a rare and meaningful connection. It was not about grandeur, wealth, or recognition. It was about being human, being kind, and recognizing the value of someone's heart and character. The encounter that had begun in a small coffee shop had blossomed into a story of genuine connection, the kind that could change lives and leave lasting impressions that neither time nor circumstance could erase. As days passed, the memory of the small coffee shop encounter stayed with Lily. She often found herself reflecting on James, thinking about his kindness and the genuine way he treated her. In her world, where people often acted with hidden motives or expectations, James had been refreshingly honest and sincere. She realized that this connection, although brief, had sparked something she hadn't felt in a long time, a sense of ease and comfort with another person. Lily had spent much of her life building her company, making strategic decisions and managing employees and investors. Success had brought her wealth, recognition, and influence, but it also brought challenges she rarely spoke about. Relationships were complicated, and it was difficult to know who genuinely cared for her versus who was interested in her success. Meeting James had reminded her that genuine human connection could exist without agendas or expectations. Unable to ignore her curiosity, Lily decided to learn more about him. She asked around discreetly, wanting to understand who he was, without making him feel uncomfortable or overwhelmed. She discovered that James worked at a small office building nearby and lived a modest life. He wasn't driven by ambition for power or wealth, but by a desire to do good, help others, and live honestly. Lily was intrigued. She wanted to meet him again, not to impress him or flaunt her status, but to experience a real, unguarded connection. Meanwhile, James returned to his routine, unaware that his small gesture had made a lasting impression. He continued his work, helping colleagues, completing projects, and maintaining his modest lifestyle. Life was simple for him, and he liked it that way. He didn't seek recognition or reward, but he valued meaningful human interactions. For James, helping the woman at the coffee shop had been instinctive, a natural response to someone in need, nothing more. Lily decided to create an opportunity for them to meet again, but carefully. She didn't want him to feel intimidated by her wealth or position. She arranged a casual networking event, designed for young professionals and entrepreneurs, where the environment would feel friendly and informal. She extended a personal invitation to James, explaining it as a small gathering where people could share ideas, learn from each other, and enjoy light conversation. James received the invitation with mixed feelings. He wasn't used to events filled with successful people and corporate professionals, and the idea made him nervous. But there was a curiosity in him, a desire to understand why this woman had taken such an interest in him. He decided to attend, thinking it could be an opportunity to meet new people and gain perspective, even if he felt out of place. The day of the event arrived, and James entered the venue with a sense of apprehension. The room was filled with people, in sharp suits and elegant attire, discussing projects, business ideas, and opportunities. He felt slightly out of place, but he reminded himself to stay calm and observe, knowing he could learn from the experience. Lily noticed him almost immediately. She had been mingling with a small group, discussing ideas and sharing insights, but the moment her eyes landed on James, she excused herself. Walking toward him, she smiled warmly, creating a sense of comfort that eased his nervousness. He recognized a familiar warmth in her demeanor, something that reminded him of the coffee shop encounter. They began talking, and Lily made a conscious effort to keep the conversation light and genuine. She asked about his work, his interests, and his perspective on life. James spoke openly, sharing stories about his daily routine, his small joys, and the ways he tried to help others. Lily listened attentively, genuinely interested in his thoughts and experiences. The conversation flowed naturally, without pretense or judgment. As the evening progressed, they found quiet moments away from the larger crowd to continue talking. Lily shared her own experiences, including the challenges she had faced building her company and the lessons she had learned along the way. James responded with thoughtful questions and reflections, appreciating her honesty and insight. They laughed together, discussed their perspectives, and discovered common ground despite their different backgrounds. The connection between them grew subtly but significantly. Lily felt a sense of ease and authenticity she rarely experienced in her high-powered world. James, meanwhile, felt inspired and valued, realizing that genuine human connection could exist even in environments he initially found intimidating. Both recognized that their interaction was different from anything they had recently experienced. By the end of the event, they had formed a bond that felt natural and meaningful. Lily appreciated James's sincerity, humility, and perspective on life, while James valued Lily's wisdom, warmth, and openness. Their conversations revealed a mutual respect and understanding, creating a foundation for future interactions. After the event, Lily invited James for a casual coffee, suggesting a place where they could continue their conversation in a relaxed setting. He agreed, feeling curious and eager to learn more about her and the connection they had begun to build. As they walked together through the busy streets, a sense of anticipation mixed with comfort settled between them. At the cafe, their conversation continued, free from the formality of the networking event. They shared stories, reflections, and insights, discovering more about each other's lives, values, and aspirations. They laughed over shared experiences, empathized with each other's struggles, and admired the unique qualities that made each of them who they were. Time passed quickly, and neither wanted the conversation to end. When they finally parted ways, both felt a subtle but significant shift. Lily realized that human connection could transcend social and professional boundaries, while James recognized the value of genuine kindness and openness in forming meaningful relationships. In the days that followed, both reflected on their growing connection. Lily thought about the simple act that had brought them together, appreciating how it had led to something deeper. James considered how small gestures could create ripples of impact, changing lives in ways that were unexpected and profound. Their story continued to develop naturally, with each encounter strengthening their bond. It was built on authenticity, respect, and shared values rather than wealth or status. The encounter at the coffee shop had become the starting point for a journey of friendship, understanding, and meaningful connection. Both realized that true connection was rare and precious, something that could transform ordinary moments into lasting memories. The foundation for their growing relationship had been laid, and neither of them could have predicted how far it would go, but both were eager to explore the possibilities together. After their initial meeting at the networking event, Lily and James continued to meet whenever they could. Their encounters were casual but meaningful. They would find quiet corners in cafes, sit on park benches, or take walks along the city streets, talking about life, work, and their dreams. Each conversation revealed more about their values, experiences, and perspectives. They discovered that despite their different worlds, they shared many beliefs about kindness, honesty, and the importance of human connection. For Lily, these meetings were a breath of fresh air. In her high-powered world, conversations were often transactional. People were guarded and interactions could feel shallow. With James, she felt understood and appreciated for who she truly was, not for her wealth or position. His humility and sincerity made her feel at ease, reminding her of the simple joys in life that she had often overlooked. She looked forward to their meetings, knowing they would leave her feeling inspired and grounded. James, on the other hand, found himself learning from Lily in ways he hadn't expected. Her experiences as a CEO taught him about resilience, decision-making, and leadership. But more importantly, she showed him that even the most successful people could value genuine human connection over appearances or status. He admired her for the way she carried responsibility with grace, and for her willingness to be authentic, despite the pressures around her. Their conversations made him more confident, more thoughtful, and more aware of the subtle ways people could impact each other's lives. One afternoon, they met at a small cafe they had discovered on a quiet street. The sunlight streamed through the windows, casting a warm glow over the tables. They ordered coffee and sat in a corner where they could talk uninterrupted. Lily began sharing a story from her early days building her company, describing the struggles she faced when resources were limited and how she had to make tough decisions to keep the business afloat. James listened intently, asking thoughtful questions and offering encouragement. He appreciated her honesty and the lessons she shared. In turn, James shared more about his own life. He spoke about his family, his work, and the small acts of kindness he tried to incorporate into his daily routine. Lily was struck by his perspective, realizing that success could be measured in many ways, not just wealth or status. She admired his dedication to living a principled life and his belief in helping others without seeking recognition. Their conversation flowed naturally with laughter, reflection, and moments of silence that felt comfortable rather than awkward. As their friendship deepened, they began to rely on each other for support and advice. Lily would consult James when she faced difficult decisions, valuing his grounded perspective. James, in turn, found comfort in Lily's encouragement and wisdom, using her insights to navigate challenges in his own life. Their connection grew stronger with each meeting, built on trust, respect, and a genuine appreciation for one another. One evening, they decided to take a walk along the river. The city lights reflected on the water, creating a serene and peaceful atmosphere. They walked side by side, talking about their dreams for the future. Lily shared her vision for expanding her company and making a positive impact on the community. James spoke about his aspirations to help others through small initiatives and to live a life filled with purpose. They found inspiration in each other's goals, realizing that despite their different paths, they could support and encourage one another. During these walks, they also shared personal stories and vulnerabilities. Lily spoke about the loneliness she sometimes felt despite her success, and James shared his fears and doubts about whether he was making the right choices in his life. By opening up to each other, they built a deeper level of trust and understanding. They learned that genuine connection required honesty, empathy, and the willingness to be seen as they truly were. Their bond began to attract attention from others, though not in a way that disrupted their privacy. Friends and colleagues noticed the positive changes in both of them. Lily seemed more relaxed and approachable, while James appeared more confident and inspired. People around them began to recognize the subtle but meaningful impact they had on each other's lives. As time went on, Lily and James started exploring shared interests beyond their conversations. They attended art exhibits, visited local markets, and participated in community events together. These experiences allowed them to see different sides of each other and strengthened their connection further. They discovered that their compatibility extended beyond shared values. They genuinely enjoyed spending time together and discovering new experiences. One rainy afternoon, they found themselves sitting in a small cafe, watching the rain fall outside. Lily reflected on how far they had come since the first encounter at the coffee shop. She thought about the unexpected journey that began with a simple act of kindness and how it had blossomed into a deep and meaningful friendship. James looked at her and smiled, recognizing the same thoughts reflected in her expression. They both understood that their connection was rare and valuable, something to be cherished and nurtured. Their relationship continued to grow organically, without pressure or expectations. They supported each other through challenges, celebrated successes together, and found joy in the simple moments they shared. The bond they had formed was a testament to the power of kindness, authenticity, and human connection. It was a reminder that even in a world often focused on achievement and status, genuine relationships could flourish through mutual respect and care. Lily and James realized that their journey was just beginning. They were learning from each other, growing together and finding strength in their shared values. The foundation of their connection was solid, built on trust, understanding, and the simple joy of being with someone who truly appreciated them for who they were. Their story was a quiet but powerful example of how small gestures, genuine kindness, and authentic human interaction could lead to life-changing relationships. As they walked home together that evening, the city lights reflecting on wet streets, they both felt a sense of gratitude. Gratitude for the chance encounter that had brought them together, for the meaningful conversations and shared experiences, and for the deep bond that was continuing to grow. They knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, they could face them together, supported by the trust and understanding that had developed between them. The simple act that began it all, the payment for a coffee, had become the starting point for a profound journey of friendship, connection, and mutual growth. It reminded them that life's most meaningful experiences often arise from small, unassuming moments. And as they continued to walk side by side, they embraced the knowledge that their bond was not just about coincidence or chance. It was about the genuine connection that had been nurtured through kindness, honesty, and shared humanity. Time passed, and the bond between Lily and James continued to deepen. Their connection, built on trust, respect, and shared values, became a central part of their lives. They had developed a rhythm together, meeting regularly, sharing experiences, and supporting each other through both challenges and successes. Their friendship had grown into something profoundly meaningful, a source of joy, inspiration, and comfort for both. Lily found that James's presence in her life was grounding. Amid the chaos of managing her rapidly growing company, he provided a sense of stability and perspective. His humility and thoughtful nature reminded her of the importance of human connection and the value of kindness. He wasn't impressed by her wealth or title. He appreciated her for who she was at her core. This authenticity was rare in her world, and she cherished it deeply. James, in turn, found Lily's guidance and wisdom invaluable. Her experiences as a self-made CEO had taught him lessons about resilience, decision-making, and the importance of perseverance. But more than that, she had shown him that genuine relationships could flourish regardless of social or professional status. Her willingness to listen, empathize, and offer honest insights inspired him to grow as a person and to approach his own life with more confidence and purpose. One weekend, they decided to take a day trip to a quiet town outside the city. They wanted to escape the noise and stress of their everyday lives and spend uninterrupted time together. The journey was filled with laughter and conversation, the kind that flowed naturally and effortlessly. They explored local shops, sampled food from small cafes, and enjoyed the beauty of nature surrounding them. It was a day of shared experiences that strengthened their bond and created lasting memories. During their trip, they found a small park with a river running through it. They sat on a bench watching the water flow and listening to the birds. Lily shared stories from her childhood, the struggles she had faced, and the moments of triumph that had shaped her. James listened with genuine interest, asking questions and reflecting on her experiences. He shared his own stories in return, about the challenges he had faced and the values that guided him. The exchange was honest, heartfelt, and deeply connecting. As the sun began to set, they walked along the riverbank, feeling a sense of peace and contentment. Their conversation shifted from personal stories to dreams for the future. Lily spoke about her vision for expanding her company, creating opportunities for others and making a positive impact on the community. James talked about his desire to help people in his own ways, to live a life of purpose and to continue learning and growing. They found inspiration in each other's ambitions, recognizing that despite their different paths, they could support and encourage one another. Back in the city, their routine continued, but their connection had grown stronger. They met regularly, whether for coffee, walks, or shared activities. Each meeting reinforced the respect and understanding they had for one another. They celebrated each other's successes and provided support during challenges. Their friendship was a source of stability and joy, something both had come to rely on in their busy, often demanding lives. Over time, the story of their connection became known to a few close friends and colleagues. It was admired not for its romance or sensationalism, but for the genuine nature of their bond. People noticed the positive impact they had on each other. Lily seemed more relaxed, approachable, and joyful. James appeared more confident, inspired, and fulfilled. Their relationship was a testament to the power of kindness, authenticity, and mutual respect. One evening, after a long day at work, they met at their favorite cafe. The city lights twinkled outside and the atmosphere inside was warm and inviting. They talked about their day, shared reflections, and simply enjoyed being in each other's company. Lily expressed her gratitude for having James in her life, and he reciprocated, acknowledging how much her presence had influenced him. Their words were simple but sincere, reflecting the deep connection that had developed between them. As weeks turned into months, their bond continued to grow. They discovered new shared interests, tried new activities, and explored different aspects of their personalities together. Each experience brought them closer, reinforcing the trust and understanding that formed the foundation of their relationship. They were learning from each other, growing together, and discovering the richness of life through their shared experiences. Through it all, the memory of the coffee shop encounter remained a central point in their story. That small act of kindness, the moment James had paid for Lily's coffee, had sparked a chain of events that neither could have anticipated. It had led to meaningful conversations, shared experiences, and a profound connection that transcended social and professional boundaries. It was a reminder of the power of small gestures and the importance of treating others with kindness and respect. Their story was one of genuine human connection, built on empathy, trust, and shared values. It was a quiet, powerful testament to the idea that meaningful relationships could develop in the most unexpected ways. For Lily and James, it was not about wealth, status, or recognition. It was about appreciating each other for who they truly were. The journey that began with a simple act of generosity had transformed both their lives, creating a bond that was enduring, supportive, and deeply meaningful. As they continued their lives both professionally and personally, they carried with them the lessons learned from each other. They understood the importance of authenticity, empathy, and human connection. They knew that true relationships were rare and precious, requiring effort, honesty, and mutual respect. And they cherished the unique bond that had grown from a single, unassuming moment in a small coffee shop. In the end, Lily and James demonstrated that life's most meaningful connections often start in the simplest ways. A gesture of kindness, a shared moment, and a willingness to see and appreciate each other as human beings could lead to extraordinary outcomes. Their story was a testament to the enduring power of empathy, trust, and genuine care, showing that the smallest actions could create ripples of impact, shaping lives in profound and lasting ways. As time went on, the bond between Lily and James continued to grow stronger. What had started as a brief encounter at a coffee shop had blossomed into a deep and meaningful relationship built on trust, understanding, and shared experiences. Each meeting, each conversation, reinforced their connection, and they began to see each other not just as friends, but as essential parts of one another's lives. Lily found herself looking forward to the simple moments with James more than the grand successes of her career. Running a growing company had once consumed her entirely, leaving little room for reflection or genuine connection. But James brought a sense of balance into her life. His calm demeanor, his thoughtful questions, and his unwavering kindness reminded her of what truly mattered. In his presence, she could relax, laugh freely, and share her thoughts without the fear of judgment or the weight of expectation. James, in turn, was inspired by Lily's strength and resilience. He admired the way she carried immense responsibility with grace, making decisions that affected countless people yet remaining grounded and compassionate. Her ability to lead without losing her humanity taught him valuable lessons about life, work, and relationships. He began to see that success was not just measured by wealth or recognition, but by the impact one had on others, and the authenticity one maintained in all interactions. One weekend, they decided to take a short trip to the countryside, away from the bustling city. They wanted to escape the noise, enjoy nature, and spend uninterrupted time together. The drive was filled with light-hearted conversation and laughter. They explored small villages, walked through fields, and visited local farms, appreciating the simplicity and beauty of the world around them. The experience brought them closer, giving them the opportunity to share personal thoughts and dreams in an open and relaxed environment. During their trip, they found a quiet lake surrounded by trees. The water reflected the clear sky, and the gentle breeze carried the scent of wildflowers. They sat on a bench by the shore, sharing stories about their childhoods, their fears, and their aspirations. Lily spoke about the pressures of leading a company and the loneliness that sometimes accompanied success. James shared his own struggles and the small victories that gave him hope and purpose. In those moments, they discovered a profound understanding of each other, a depth of connection that went beyond words. As the day turned to evening, they walked along the lake, watching the sun set in vibrant shades of orange and pink. The conversation turned to the future, what they hoped for, what they dreamed of, and how they wanted to live their lives. Lily talked about expanding her business in ways that could help the community and create opportunities for others. James spoke about continuing to live a life guided by kindness and purpose, making small differences wherever he could. They found inspiration in each other's visions, recognizing the potential for their lives to intersect in meaningful ways. Back in the city, their routine continued, but their bond had deepened. They met often, whether for a quick coffee, a walk in the park, or a quiet evening at home. Each encounter strengthened their relationship, reinforcing trust, empathy, and appreciation. They shared triumphs and challenges, offering encouragement and support. Their friendship was no longer just a pleasant connection. It had become a cornerstone of their daily lives. Over time, Lily and James began to explore new experiences together. They attended art exhibitions, volunteered for community projects, and tried activities they had never done before. Each shared experience allowed them to learn more about each other, discovering new facets of personality, creativity, and thought. Their companionship was a journey of discovery, filled with laughter, reflection, and mutual growth. One rainy afternoon, they found themselves in a small cafe, watching the droplets race down the windows. Lily reflected on how far their connection had come since that first coffee shop encounter. She thought about how a simple act of kindness could set in motion a chain of events that changed lives in ways unimaginable. James, sitting across from her, shared the same sentiment, expressing gratitude for the authenticity and care that had come into his life through their bond. As months passed, their relationship continued to flourish. They faced challenges together, whether in their professional or personal lives, always supporting and encouraging each other. Lily found solace in James's perspective, his patience, and his unwavering integrity. James grew through Lily's wisdom, learning resilience, leadership, and the importance of pursuing one's dreams without losing sight of core values. Their story became known to a few close friends and colleagues, admired not for fame or romance, but for the genuine nature of their connection. Lily's demeanor softened, her joy evident to those around her, while James exuded confidence and inspiration. Their relationship was a testament to the power of kindness, authenticity, and genuine human connection. One evening, after a long day at work, they met at a quiet spot overlooking the city skyline. The lights twinkled like stars, and a gentle breeze carried the scent of evening rain. They sat side by side, reflecting on the journey that had brought them together. Lily expressed her appreciation for James's presence in her life, and he reciprocated, acknowledging the profound impact she had on him. Their words were simple, honest, and heartfelt, capturing the essence of their deep bond. Through all their experiences, the memory of the coffee shop encounter remained central. That small act of paying for a coffee had been the beginning of something extraordinary, a journey of friendship, understanding, and mutual growth. It reminded them that even the simplest gestures could create ripples of impact, leading to life-changing relationships built on trust, empathy, and shared humanity. As they walked home that night, the city lights reflecting on wet streets, both felt a sense of gratitude. Gratitude for the chance encounter, for the ongoing bond they nurtured, and for the lessons learned along the way. They knew that the future held challenges, opportunities, and unknown moments, but they were confident they could face them together. Their connection had grown strong enough to weather life's uncertainties. The simple act that began it all had transformed their lives. Lily and James had discovered the power of kindness, the importance of authenticity, and the joy of genuine human connection. Their story showed that meaningful relationships often emerge from small, unassuming moments, and that taking the time to see and appreciate others could lead to profound and lasting change. In the end, Lily and James's journey was about more than a friendship. It was about discovering the depth of human connection and the transformative power of empathy and understanding. It was a story of two lives intertwined by chance, nurtured by choice and strengthened by the simple yet powerful acts that define what it means to truly care for another person. Their bond was a living reminder that even in a busy, complex world, genuine kindness and authenticity could create relationships that are enduring, inspiring, and life-changing.